Hello and welcome to the Engineer's House channel. Today we're going to discuss about friction. You're all familiar with this phenomenon and you have seen its effects in everyday life. When two objects or two surfaces are sliding at each other, something called friction occurs and prevents the sliding. Friction is always against the motion. Imagine someone is walking. As this person pushes the floor backward, the floor pushes them forward. This is simply because of friction. In other words, friction helps you walk. But have you ever tried to walk on ice? If you have, you would know how difficult it sometimes is. The more you try to move, the more you will slip. This happens since there is no friction, or the amount of friction between the surface of the ice and that person's shoes is way too small. Another example of friction's presence is when you are pulling or pushing a box. A large amount of friction appears when the box is in tangential contact with the surface below it. That's why moving it seems so difficult. But when you use wheels, you are actually decreasing the friction, so it will move much easier. One more fascinating example is drifting. When the tires of a car that is moving with high velocity slip on the road, friction appears and produces so much noise and heat. If you overcome this friction, you will form a curved path during driving, and this is what we call drifting. A more precise explanation requires a knowledge about rolling friction, which will be discussed in next videos. Now that we know the examples of friction in our daily life, we can describe it physically and mathematically. Keep in mind that friction exists in both solids and fluids, but for now, we're just analyzing dry friction. In physics, friction is known as a force which is always directed in the opposite direction of the motion. It means when you are trying to move something to the right, friction will be to the left. The nature of this force is not known exactly, but we assume that it is due to the roughness of a surface. There are two types of friction. The first one is the static friction, which occurs when the body is at rest and experiencing a force along the surface through which it is going to start moving. The other one is the kinetic friction, which takes place when the body is moving. We denote the static friction with Fs, which equals to μs times n, and kinetic friction with Fk, which equals to μk times n. As shown in this diagram, in order to move an object from rest, you need to apply a force larger than the static friction force. And when that object starts moving, kinetic friction appears instead of the static one. That's why μs is always greater than μk. So far, we have discovered the idea of friction and its working principles. Besides the mentioned examples of this video, there are plenty of other cases through which friction is the main part of the whole system. In the next videos, we will be going to take a look at rolling friction and other aspects of this interesting phenomenon. Please remember to subscribe to our channel and leave us your comment down below. Hope you all enjoyed this video and take care.